Bada bing! My life is so weird. Did that hurt? Oh wait, I just remembered, I don't care. It's not that you're bad at your job. Okay, it is.
There have been a lot of Spider-Man games over the years, some pretty good and some questionable. Though the majority of Spider-Man games are actually pretty good, there have been some that make you want to destroy your console. The two games that are considered the worst are The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. So, let's find out which one is truly the worst.
Spider-Man 3, released in 2007, follows the events of the film while also exploring subplots with different villains. This is where the game really stands out, as the various characters introduced in this game expand Spidey's universe. There are a lot of side missions in this game, but they never get repetitive and feel like a new experience each time. Our favourite side mission is the one with DeWolf, where you need to collect the evidence at the crime scene by taking photos and beating up the bad guys.
Now for the gameplay. It's nothing groundbreaking from previous Spider-Man games, but it can be fun. It mainly consists of button mashing, that can result in cool looking combos. The web swinging in this game is physics-based and requires practice as Spider-Man's weight is realistically heavy. Air tricks are also very helpful as they allow you to gain distance quickly throughout the city. Also, webs do attach to buildings. Furthermore, the random crimes are actually fun and don't feel repetitive, and the Daily Bugle photo missions are easily the best thing about this game.
The dodge button in this game has changed from past Spider-Man games. If you're playing on the PS3, you press L1 to dodge an incoming attack, and square to counter. You can also chain other attacks with this counter mechanic. This was also the last Spider-Man game to feature a sprint button. And yes, we know Spider-Man PS4 has a sprint function, but that one's more like the Assassin's Creed one, not really giving you a huge increase in speed. I mean, just look, who would win in a race?
Easily the worst thing about this game are the boss fights. None of them are challenging, but just time consuming. All you do is repeatedly punch them until their health bar goes all the way down. It's a shame they didn't include any of the combinations in the boss fights.
Also, another terrible thing about this game are the QTEs. They are just so long and drawn out, and they require so many buttons that if you stuff up, you need to start all over again. They are also placed in the most unnecessary areas of the game, where they are really not needed at all.
Probably the weirdest thing about this game are the graphics. They look unrendered and appear to lack texture. Although it is the first Spider-Man game on the PS3, so that could be used as an excuse. Spider-Man is the best modeled character in the game, and the city is well designed. The buildings are in good proportion compared to Spider-Man, which create a pretty realistic experience in the open world.
Overall, Spider-Man 3 isn't a perfect Spider-Man game, but does make for a fun experience for Spider-Man fans. It consists of fun gameplay and an interesting story. Spider-Man 3 is recommended to any Spidey fan.
Not sure we can say the same about this game. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, released in 2014, has some questionable elements. From graphics to gameplay, this game truly wants to make you destroy your console. Just look at this.
Though it consists of many problems, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 can be a fun game for players. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, unlike its predecessor, takes place during the events of the second film, but adding in new, unseen subplots. Introducing Carnage, Black Cat, and Kraven, this game becomes a jumbled mess.
Beanox went with the weird decision of bringing in Carnage without Venom first. The story should have stuck with one plot, the one with Kraven and Kingpin, as this plot contained interesting ideas, unique designs, and held potential for a pretty great story, but it just became another segment of the crowded mess within the game.
The Carnage Killer subplot is completely unneeded and introduces a weird take on Cletus Cassidy. Instead of the sadistic psycho killer we know from the comics, Carnage in this game is a victim looking for the meaning of death. This creates a strange incarnation of the character that came off more as an anti-hero rather than a demonic villain.
An Easter egg that Beanox did include is how Cletus signs his name in blood, just like in the comics. There are many other Easter eggs in the game, including Mysterio, Rhino, and a lot more. Now, Black Cat in this game is pointless. She just appears, you fight her, and she disappears.
Side missions are tedious and repetitive. With very little variety and a dull gameplay system, they get repetitive very quickly. Easily, the worst side missions are the fire rescues. The spider sense is needed to locate the victim, but since the spider sense makes things impossible to see, it's an incredibly annoying task.
And how could we forget the karma meter? This has to be the worst idea in any Spider-Man game to date. They tried to integrate the Web of Shadows karma system into here, making your actions affect the city. The only problem is, in Web of Shadows, it actually worked. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 makes the player work so hard whenever they're in the open world, threatening the player that if they don't complete the side missions, the task force will pursue them.
Also, once you complete a crime, it would play this really annoying, frustrating news clip featuring a picture that has nothing to do with the crime you just stopped. And even worse, it would spawn you to a completely different area to where you just were.
Now, what's there to say about the gameplay? Not much. You repeatedly mash square, press triangle once in a while, then repeat. There's not much depth to this combat, and the Amazing Spider-Man 1 had better combat. It was much quicker and much more fluid, whereas this game feels a lot more stiff. Though not many people notice, you can time your attacks and it can increase your combo and trigger more critical hits.
Web swinging is actually pretty good in this game, even though Spidey feels as light as air. There is really no sense of weight, but the swinging serves its purpose well. Alternating between left and right hand is an interesting feature, and the web rush was improved from the last game. Though the developers say webs attach to buildings, that is the biggest lie. The webs appear like they attach to buildings, but really they are merely going through them.
They contain no physical presence at all, but still make web swinging pretty fun. Now, for the graphics, do we really need to say anything? Seriously, what was the budget, $2? Even the mobile game had better graphics, and it was a much better game overall. This came out on the PS3 and next-gen console, so it should look better than this.
The city doesn't feel grand or large, just like it's there. For Spider-Man, this city feels less like a concrete jungle and more like a child's playground. Spider-Man, in proportion to the buildings, feels too large. Perhaps it's the camera angle imposing Spider-Man over the city? Also, there is nothing well designed about this city at all.
The web rush ruins the open world, making you easily fly over buildings. There's really no need for web swinging at all, as a web rush can just do everything for you. Also, the soundtrack in this game makes swinging throughout the city quite depressing, as you don't feel like a larger-than-life superhero.
Bada bing!
Furthermore, we don't know if anyone else noticed, but the criminal who is supposed to be getting away drives right back to the same spot he started.
Also, this game has so many glitches. Did they even glitch test this game? Everywhere you turn, there's a new glitch to be found. The most fun part of this game is finding out what new glitches you can discover. Just look at this compilation.
And here, what is wrong with Spider-Man's posture? He's half hunching, half slanted at the same time? And is this meant to be Andrew Garfield? We don't see the resemblance. And where is Gwen? They completely took her out of the game. She was such a big part in the first game, and an even bigger part in the movie.
This game contains a lot of faults and issues, but overall, it's hilarious to play, mainly because of all the glitches. With an inconsistent story, bland gameplay, and questionable graphics, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is truly the worst Spider-Man game. There's a really good game behind all this mess, but unfortunately, the restrictions of movie license games ruined The Amazing Spider-Man 2.